We have with us Dr. Monica Khanna, who did her high school in international school from Bangkok. Then she did her MA and MPhil and PhD in English literature. She's currently working as associate professor at Indira Institute of Business Management and consultant at Indian School of Management and Entrepreneurship. Her connect with this topic is that she's passionate about books for children. She writes books for children. She has published 7 books. Her love for kids and a desire to revive and rekindle an interest in the dying art of reading amongst children. These are the driving forces. Her book, Revisioning Mythology in Indian Literature, that was published in 2017. That is the last one that was published, no? After that, you haven't published another one? 4 books. Okay, so you please tell us more about it. She has authored, you have also authored books on grammar and composition for grades 6 to 8. Dr. Monica Khanna will address 2 questions. One is, what are some contemporary themes in Indian children's literature today, and how culture impacts the content of literature? May I request you to please give your presentation?
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Godrej, thank you, Brunda, thank you, Jayashree, for this opportunity to be addressing all of you. A lot of what I had to say, I think Sandhya has already covered in her presentation, but what I'm going to talk about is the change in the themes in Indian literature over a period of time. Indian literature for children has gradually evolved over a period of time, and there has been a lot of change in terms of the themes. So I'm looking more at the content of Indian literature for children, and I will be taking you through a few books which talk about some of the new ideas that we are looking at in children's literature. All right, to talk about what children's literature essentially does is, one, it exposes children to a new world altogether, a world which is within their culture and also exposes them to cultures other than their own. What we looked at in the documentary today, for example, Russian literature. So for an Indian child, reading Russian literature gives them an insight into the Russian world, into Russian culture, which is very alien to their own. And that's what makes it interesting, because they're discovering new things. They're enhancing their creativity, they're enhancing their imagination. It exposes them to a lot of different issues that are taking place in the world outside, and inculcates a kind of sensitivity in them towards other people. It makes them better people because it helps them to understand people better. And that's why children's literature plays a very, very important role in the molding and development of children into better human beings. So children's literature tradition in India, as Sandhya already pointed out, it's very, very rich. A lot of oral tradition. We started off with stories from the Panchatantra, the Hitopadesha stories, where we looked at animal characters, and human qualities were projected onto animal characters, and that is how a lot of values were taught. And over a period of time, this has changed. We are trying to move away from stories of mythology, though mythical tales from mythology have been repeated over and over again, and children have grown up reading. The Amar Chitra Katha, for example, tells a lot of stories about Indian history and Indian mythology, and we learn so much about what happened over a period of time. But an entire generation of children actually grew up on Western literature, on Enid Blyton, on the Nancy Drew stories. At least my generation, I know for sure that there were not too many Indian authors that we were exposed to. Not that they were not writing, but there was very little and limited exposure, and people did not really know too much. So that is why one entire generation after independence was reading a lot of literature written by authors from other countries, and which was beautiful, except that Indian children would not be able to relate so easily, because the culture is very different, the context is very different. The ideas, the ideology, simple things like the kind of food, the kind of lifestyle, the kind of value system, the relationships with parents, all of that is extremely different in the Indian context. And the old themes, like I said, from mythology to moral science. As Sandhya also mentioned, we had this whole notion of books having to be didactic, having to preach, having to tell children that this is what you should be doing, this is the right value, whether it's honesty or righteousness or truthfulness, this is what you should be doing. And at the end of each story, you had a moral telling you that this is what you have learned from the story. And that is what is changing over a period of time. So there is a change with authors and publishers are trying to make a difference, and there are a lot of challenges that they face. For one thing, we have to break the parents' idea that stories have to have a moral. Okay, for parents, it's difficult to digest because parents feel that if my child reads a story, there must be a learning outcome from the story. So they're not just for fun, like Sandhya said, they have to have a reason. And so trying to break that mindset and let children just enjoy reading for the sake of reading because it's sheer pleasure. Also with the digitization of books and children being exposed to more and more gadgets. Unfortunately, the children in the audience have left today, but given a choice between a book and a TV channel and their iPad, very few children today would actually pick up a book and read a book rather than watch a program on television. So these are some of the challenges, and also in terms of the content. Parents and even teachers in schools say that this is not appropriate for children. This kind of, if you have dark humor or if you have something which goes against the typical moral belief of people, they say that this is not right for children. This is not appropriate. So publishers, even if they want to publish certain, talk about certain topics, sometimes there is resistance from different areas. So we are experimenting with new themes in literature today. We're experimenting with new ideas, new topics. We are trying to bring about something which is within the Indian context and which is close to the reality of Indian students. Yet at the same time, what we are doing is not giving a clear moral to the story. The moral is implied. The learning takes place because as you see a character go through certain experiences, you learn from the experiences of the character. You don't need to be told that this is what you have to do. The story gives you an insight into the world around you, and that is what makes the story beautiful. I'm going to take you through 3 books, like I said. This one is Why Are You Afraid to Hold My Hand? It's by Sheila Dheer and it's published by Tulika Books, and it deals with the theme of disability. It talks about a little girl who has cerebral palsy, and she's always the outcast. She's always an outsider. Children treat her differently, and it's about inclusion. It's about trying to bring the child who is outside into the world of other children, and she feels very slighted because other people treat her differently and she doesn't like it. And she says, yes, I have a problem. No, it will not go away. Take me for who I am, a child who simply wants to play. So I'm just another child. I'm just like the rest of you, and I want to be able to play just like anybody else. But why is it that people are preventing me from doing so? And then, because there is a physical problem, they also assume that she has a mental problem without knowing that, the physical disability has nothing to do with mental retardation, but that is how people perceive her, and that upsets her again. They say, is her mind okay? Just because my legs are wobbly, people think my mind is wobbly too. So, just because there is a physical disability, there is no correlation between physical and mental disability, and there is no reason to believe that it should be like that. All she wants is to be included. She wants to be like other children, and she says, I don't like it when you fuss. It makes me feel so small. Let me do it my way. So what if I should fail? Don't other children make mistakes and learn from them? So why are you not allowing me to move? Why are you keeping me enclosed in a cocoon and not allowing me to grow? I can fall, I can come back again. And what she's looking for is empathy and not sympathy. So either people will feel sorry for her, or they will make fun of her, or they will exclude her, but they don't want to accept her as one of their own. And that's what the book is about. It's about showing empathy and sensitivity towards children and including them, despite whatever the disabilities, into what is happening around them. The second book that I'm talking about is called Brown Like Dosas, Samosas, and Sticky Chickie. It's a book by Fanuke, please, and it's by Rebecca Manari. As all of you are aware, Indians have a very strong obsession with fair complexion and the need and the equation of fairness with beauty. It's almost as though if you're not fair, you can't be beautiful and you can't be successful. So there is this innate need in Indian children to be fair, because, you know, the minute the child is born, the first thing they will say, Gora hai, Gori hai, you know, and that makes all the difference of the beauty of the child. So this book is about a little girl who meets Anahi, who's a purple lady, and she promises to make her fair. She says, I'll make you white, I'll make you fair, I'll make you you know, change your complexion. And she says, I'm a girl, not a snowflake, I said with a quiver. Your icy words make me shiver. The land I come from is sunny and brown, and there's no snowfall in my town. So I don't want to be white like snow because my land does not have snow. I don't come from a land of snow, so why, when my land is brown, I'm happy being brown. And she's just like her natural habitat, and that's a part of her identity. And then, you know, the fairy tells her that all these white things, I'll make you white like eggs, I'll make you white like doves and like white mice, all of these white things she tempts her with, and then she says, Mama always says, so many colors have we, brown like dosas, samosas, and sticky chickie. Others lie brown like sand at my feet, coconut, cinnamon, and the bark of a tree. That's what we look like, my friends and me. So it's a very befitting reply that I am like my surroundings. I'm not different from my surroundings, and that is my identity. I don't want to have to change my identity or to conform to this notion of fairness. So as you can see, there is learning taking place subtly and making a point, making a statement, and then in the end, Anahi, of course, accepts what she's saying, and she says, everywhere you go and all around the world, always remember, you precious girl, whatever be your unique shade, pretty and perfect, you've been made. So you are what you are, and you don't have to change yourself to be accepted or you know, to be liked by other people. This last book that I'm going to be talking about is Mark and I Help, and this talks about gender role stereotypes. So we have this whole notion about the domain of the kitchen being for girls and the boys being delegated to the outside domain of you know, earning money. And here is a mother who is a doctor, and she has two children, a girl and a boy, and the mother has to go to the hospital for an emergency, and she's called some friends over to her place in the evening for a party. And the mother leaves, and the children, both of them, get together, and they, you know, finish all the cooking and cleaning and keep the house spick and span and decorated. So the mother's pleasantly surprised when she comes back. And the guests are even more surprised. They say, but you were not even home. Who did it? And she says, my children did it. So the guests are still all right with the daughter having done it. But when they say, oh, your son helped too? Your son was in the kitchen too? And she says that, you know, all of us share the household chores in the family. My son, my father, my husband, me, my daughter, all of us distribute the household work, and there is no, you know, there is no division of labor based on gender. So it's a book that deals with, you know, breaking gender stereotypes. So this is, these are some of the themes that we are looking at, you know, breaking of gender stereotypes, inclusivity, you know, dealing with peer pressure, dealing with bullying, and identity, a notion of identity, being happy with what you are, being happy with who you are, and, you know, so this is what makes children's literature very special today and very different and very meaningful, because it's dealing with all these contemporary issues that children today are faced with in their day-to-day lives, and they're dealt with in a beautiful manner without being moralistic. But unfortunately, children's literature does not get the kind of attention that it deserves, and I'm so grateful for occasions like these and events like these where we get together and discuss children's literature, because it's such an important part of a child's upbringing, and you know, more and more events like these would be welcome to bring about a greater exposure to what is happening in children's literature today, and to making people aware of what is going on in the market today. Thank you.